ठीक है. Why do you think this is food poisoning? Any answers? 4 to 6 hours back. Incubation period is too less, right? So what it is? What is the pathogenesis? Preformed toxin, which is not labile to heat. It's not, it is mentioned that they consume cheese and leafy salads. So this could be what? Which organisms are implicated here? Staphylococcus aureus and Bacillus cereus. So depending on this incubation period, can you tell that this is emetic poisoning? What is it causing? Vomiting and diarrhea. So diarrhea can be there, could not be there. If longer incubation period is given, there is a chance that even gastrointestinal tract is also affected. So what is the pathogenesis here? Where is it acting? This toxin is acting where? On the vomiting center in the brain. So it is inducing the vomiting in the person. So it's not necessary that you will have fever also. Okay? Sometimes it's unrelated. Patient will come with the classical history of consumption of food. There is a chance that if certain people have eaten from the same source, so all of them will produce the symptoms. That also is given in the question. Okay? So your clinical diagnosis is acute food poisoning. Etiological agents could be Staph aureus or Bacillus cereus. What are the food items that are implicated in such cases usually? Products with the high sugar content, right? The bacteria will survive on that. It will ferment that glucose or whatever sugars you are giving it. Okay. What is the pathogenesis? Preformed enterotoxin stimulates vagus nerve and vomiting center in the brain. Because of this stimulation also, what happens? Intestinal peristaltic activity is increased and it leads to diarrhea. Okay. What is the specimen that you will collect here? You will collect what? Food sample which was consumed, or you can collect vomitus. Okay. And you can run it for what? Toxin detection. Before thinking about stool sample, you have to think about vomitus and food sample so that you run it for toxin detection. Okay. This toxin detection can be done by ELISA based methods, just that you have to remember, or you can go for certain genetic identification through PCR. Okay. Viable plate count or plate enrichment culture can also be used. This is a quantitative methods which are done in the laboratory, on which you pour the material on the agar plate and see the growth of the organism. Okay. This can be done in which cases? Can be done in the cases where the food was not warmed or there was no hot food available. Okay. Because in that case, the diarrhea, the microorganisms, they do die, but the toxins, they remain active. Okay. Because they are not labile to heat. Diarrhea. Why diarrhea? Passage of loose watery feces. Loose watery feces, but not given how many times? If it was given that just 2 times this person went, is it diarrhea? What is the definition of diarrhea by WHO? It has to be at least more than 3 episodes than the usual habit of the person. If somebody is habitual of going twice a day, then he has to have 5 episodes of diarrhea, then it is called as diarrhea. Okay. So what microscopic examination was given? To support this thing, what was given? Plenty of pus cells. This indicates some kind of infection is there. But no RBCs. RBCs are seen in which case? It's seen in dysentery along with mucus and defecation, painful defecation, tenesmus, right? So some additional symptoms will also be given. So this is diarrhea. What can cause diarrhea? Only E. coli? Can Shigella cause diarrhea? Where do you expect Shigella more than diarrhea? Where do you expect? Dysentery. Okay. What else? Salmonella. Which salmonella? Salmonella typhi. Which salmonella? Non-typhoidal salmonellas. What are the names? Salmonella gastroenteritis and typhimurium. Typhimurium is implicated or not? Okay, which sample should you collect? Stool sample. What will you do with the stool sample? Direct microscopy, or you will observe it macroscopically first? If yes, then why are you observing it macroscopically? Only bacteria can cause diarrhea? Any viruses you know of? Rotavirus, adenovirus in infants, right? Calcivirus. Okay. Then other than this, any protozoans? See microsporidia in the immunocompetent person? And do you remember about all these parasites that you studied in the classes? You remember about tinea, okay. And what else do you remember? Okay. So these are all, you can write that these are all the etiological agents in case of diarrhea, because it is not specified here which, have they given any specifications that just tell us which, if HIV patient will develop which kind of diarrhea, what are the causative organisms? In that case, what will you write? You will write about Cryptosporidium, you will write about Entamoeba histolytica. But for diarrhea as a whole, you can write all these organisms. Okay. What will you do with the fecal specimen? You will observe for the color, consistency, pH, any visible parasites are present or not, blood and mucus. Okay. In case of carriers, you can also take the rectal swab. Why are we taking swab? Why are we taking swab? Because these carriers, they do not have symptoms. So they won't have the diarrhea. What we'll have to do? We'll have to take the rectal swab and run it to the laboratory. For microscopic examination, you perform saline and iodine wet mount. Very important. And hanging drop you know about. We check this for which organism? Hanging drop is for which organism? Vibrio cholerae. What do you see in this hanging drop? Darting motility. What is darting motility? Darting motility, when organism moves like a shooting star, you cannot trace the path of the organism. That is darting motility. Okay. Then in case of saline and iodine wet mounts, what are the advantages of saline wet mount? If it's a saline mount, if it's a bile stained egg of a parasite, you will be able to differentiate it, right? Because it is stained with bile and saline is giving the transparent background. Also, the organism will remain motile, it will not die, right? In case of iodine, what happens? Organism is killed, so motility is lost, right? But what is the advantage of iodine mount? It stains the chromatid bodies. So whatever nuclear material is there, it will be enhanced in iodine mount. That is why we are performing saline and iodine wet mount. Okay. In case of crypto and isospora and cystoisospora, these are all stained by modified acid fast stain, 0.5% sulfuric acid, right? So what we have done so far, we have done macroscopically, we have examined the stool sample Then we have performed iodine and saline wet mount. Then we have done modified acid fast staining. Electron microscopy of stool should be done when you are suspecting any viral cause, right? Because you cannot observe this under the compound microscope. So you will go for electron microscope. Then bacterial culture. What kind of media is used here? What is enrichment media? What is the difference? Enrichment means it is in liquid form, right? Enriched is agar, it is the solid form. So what is this? Where do you use APW? What is APW? Alkaline peptone water. You are using that for quality, okay. And SF broth is for selenite F broth. This is used for Salmonella and Shigella. Okay. What are the selective medias you go for here? McConkey. What will it do? It will differentiate between lactose fermenting and non-lactose fermenting. What are the non-lactose fermenting bacteria? Salmonella, Shigella, they are all non-lactose fermenting. Then DCA, XLD and TCB is for colony. You will go for colony morphology. Why is this important? Because these organisms that you are culturing on this media, they are all from which family? They are from Enterobacteriaceae family, right? And you will perform the culture smear. You will test for motility. Which of these organisms is non-motile? Shigella is non-motile, right? Then you will perform biochemical test and based on that you will come to the diagnosis. If you have to confirm this thing, you will go for Multitalk Vitek. These are all automated identification systems, okay? But for them, what do you have to do? You have to culture the microorganism on plate first. Then only you can use these machines, okay? You can go for serotyping for epidemiological surveillance, right? Then tissue culture antigen detection test is also done. Okay. Abdominal pain, passage of stool and mother noticed blood and stool. Okay. On examination, child temperature was found to be high grade fever with mild dehydration. So what is this? This is dysentery. Okay. What are the etiological agents? When you think about dysentery, two things should come to your mind. First is Shigella, second is Entamoeba histolytica, right? And whenever patient comes with such history, you should be able to differentiate between the two. One very important differentiating factor is non-adherent to the container should be amoebic dysentery. But if it's adhering to the container, the material is adhering to the container, that is bacillary dysentery. Okay. Plus, all these findings are there. But here, when you see, the odor is very offensive in case of amoebic dysentery. And you will see that the stool is little bit of greenish in color. Okay. And in case of bacillary dysentery, it's not possible that it is odorless, but still even more foul smell is there in case of amoebic dysentery. Okay. Okay, what are the other bacterial causes? Campylobacter jejuni. What is EHEC and EIEC? What is EHEC? Enterohemorrhagic Escherichia coli and EIEC enteroinvasive. Okay, these two are implicated here. Then Vibrio parahemolyticus, parasites, Entamoeba histolytica and these parasites. What is S. mansoni and japonicum? Schistosoma mansoni and Schistosoma japonicum. What was the other schistosoma that resides in urinary bladder? Schistosoma hematobium. Okay, where does it reside? In the bladder, urinary bladder plexus. Okay. Then again you are taking fecal sample, you are performing it the same way following the same method we performed in diarrhea and treat accordingly. Whatever findings you get, you can also go for antimicrobial sensitivity test and give the patient's treatment. 72 years old female, extremes of age. है ना? Post 65 there is no immunity. Okay, 72 years old female is extremes of age. Admitted in ICU. Admitted in ICU is a risk factor itself. Broad spectrum antibiotics for more than 7 days. Broad spectrum antibiotics. What is it doing? Killing the helpful flora in the gut. Patient develops sudden onset of frequent watery diarrhea, passing stool 10 to 12 times a day. What will happen? Patient will go into the shock because of this. What is happening? Sudden onset of this much of diarrhea, what is the pathogenesis? Again, toxin. Which microorganism? Clostridium difficile. Right? What has happened? Pseudomembranous enterocolitis. Okay? How did it happen? Because broad spectrum antibiotics were used. But how do you treat this? Again, with the help of which antibiotics? Which vancomycin? Oral vancomycin. Okay. Oral vancomycin and metronidazole. Okay. Pathogenesis, देखो, prolonged hospital stay due to colonization in the colon and prolonged antimicrobial use. Which antimicrobials? Clindamycin, cephalosporins, fluoroquinolones. Toxin mediated. Two powerful toxins are there. Which one? Toxin A and toxin B. Cytotoxin. What does it do? Secreted in the intestine and that bind this glycosylate, they glycosylate the GTP binding protein that regulates cellular acting cytoskeleton. It means they are causing epithelial damage. Okay, and infection spreads. What is formed? Pseudomembranes are formed. Okay. What will happen if pseudomembranes are formed? No proper absorption of nutrients and diarrhea. Okay. Then how will you diagnose this? What is important in this case? History is important. You have to know that the patient was admitted in the ICU in the hospital, patient was on bedridden, he was given n number of antibiotics, the onset is very acute, how he developed this severe infection, keeping that all in mind, you have to come to a diagnosis, right? What do you do here? You do the stool culture, but keeping an aerobic organism in mind, what kind of media are you using? CCFA media. What does it have? It has cefoxitin, cycloserine and fructose. Why do we have these antibiotics? So that it makes it selective. What is selective? What is selective media? It inhibits the growth of undesired organisms. It inhibits the growth of commensals in the gut. Okay. Then you can go for antigen detection through ELISA. You can also go for GDH detection through the same way. Some rapid kits are available for this, for bedside diagnosis. You just have to pour the stool sample and it will give you the result. Okay. Drugs recommended are oral vancomycin in these cases. It's a parasite. You said the parasite. What it is causing? They have asked you what is the diagnosis. You can say ascariasis, but they did not give you what kind of worms were there in the stool. If they had given you specification that leads you to escheriasis, you could have been able to say that. But here collectively, what will be your clinical diagnosis? Again, it's a very broad term. It's not leading to any particular system. Think about the symptom that is caused in this patient. She had pallor and underweight for her age. So there is malnutrition happening here. And she had pallor. That is on examination. So what can you tell? If somebody is looking faint than their complexion, some other symptoms could have been given, but here what do you see this is? She's a 7-year-old girl. Very good. Iron deficiency anemia. Okay. The diagnosis is iron deficiency anemia. What could be the probable cause? They feed on the blood mucosa they take up the blood they feed on your blood vessels. Okay. Then stool microscopy will show you what? Eggs of hookworm are segmented. How do they look? This eggs of hookworm. Have you seen it? Oval in shape with small segments, right? What else can you do? You can go for certain sedimentation techniques or molecular methods, but in laboratory conventionally we do stool microscopy. Okay. Then what is deworming strategy? Periodic consumption of albendazole, especially in the high prevalence cases areas. Okay. In the schools where there is high prevalence of the kids developing worms in their stool samples, they are slipped 1 albendazole tablets biannually by the government of India. Okay. Last case. Burning epigastric pain for past 3 months. Pain is worse on an empty stomach, partially relieved after meals or antacids. What is happening here? Which organism? H. pylori. What do you do to diagnose H. pylori? Okay, what is invasive? You will do biopsy and stain with? Okay, and what else can be done? Is it invasive? What do you do in urea breath test? Organism releases urease, so it is converted into CO2, and that CO2 you have to catch. That tells you the presence of H. pylori in this case. Okay, what is the treatment? You give triple therapy or quadruple therapy. Why are we giving it like that? You are giving antacids to reduce the production of acids, which will even cause further damage to the mucosa, which is already ulcerated. You are adding antibiotics to kill the microorganism. What antibiotics you are adding? Mostly macrolides you are adding. What is the third agent you are adding? Bismuth subsalicylate will cover these ulcers and protect from further spreading. Okay, it will also help in healing of these ulcers. Okay, that is why you are giving this kind of therapy. Okay, what do you see in the gram stain of H. pylori? Gram negative bacilli with seagull shaped morphology. Culture media you are using is Kirose media and chocolate agar media. This you have to remember. And you can go for Malditov. Also, you can go for non-invasive tests such as urea breath test. You can also take fecal sample for antigen assay or detect immunoglobulins against this infection. Okay, by antibody assay. Okay, this was about peptic ulcer disease.